Well, good evening and welcome to Mountain Bears. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course, with me tonight is Techy Joe. How are you, darlings?
I'm doing great. How are you this evening?
Doing well. A little bit
Awesome.
laughing, but other than that, doing great.
Doing what now?
Yeah, I had it up earlier, thumping, and now I had to turn it down.
Aw.
You
I
know,
thought I sounded loud out here.
yeah, it's always fun. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it has been an interesting week. There's been a few different things go down. I thought first we'd talk about the vaccine coming out and how it's already been sent out. What have you seen about it, dear?
Well, basically, I'm seeing a lot on the vaccines. Well, and it depends upon the vaccine. Like, I'm seeing some, like, not true stuff or stuff that might be a little concerning at first glance until you realize that the way the vaccinations are made
Mm-hmm.
can actually create some weirdo problems.
Uh-huh.
Because there are like stories of people who've received at least one form of the vaccine, an Australia version, that the way that they approach making their vaccine actually caused some false positives on some other important medical testing.
Right.
Because that's sort of the thing the medical testing looks for.
Right.
And so it kind of, it doesn't work
Yeah.
well with that.
Well, and some of them are some of these claims about the vaccine is just crazy.
Well, yeah, some of them gotten really out there, like, really microchip your ass? Please.
Please. Not interested, nor do they want to dumb you down or, create this problem or that problem.
More importantly, if they microchipped your ass, you should be happy. Like, you should be so lucky.
Yeah.
Like, to borrow a little Yiddish and kind of channel some of my Jewish friends, you should be so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Because that stuff's expensive. Like, if you ever microchipped a dog, this crap's not cheap.
Yeah, $239 normally.
Yeah, really.
And I'm like,
you're gonna get them for $20.
Break.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I haven't gotten it. No, we have not gotten the vaccine yet. It's just hit West Virginia. There's a few local-ish hospitals that have gotten their first supplies, but yeah, it's still going to be a while.
Yeah, we're looking at possibly mid-March, early April, according to SuperDoc, when we would be available to the current planning schedule. But again, they don't know. Now,
well, and still, that may just be specifically geared towards you. You're at a higher risk.
Right.
So as for me, I may even be later in the year before that happens for me.
Right. So yeah, we're going to still be living our virtual legacy. At least into May, June, if we don't get a handle on this. But what gets me is some of the other stuff coming out about it. Fearful of taking it, a shot or a incubation.
Well, yeah, there is that. But I do understand some of the concerns. I mean, granted, the way some people are phrasing it, it's kind of like, well, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, they don't want to take it until they see some longer term results. And I'm like, typically that's called like a 10-year study at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you really want to screw around for 10 years?
Right. I mean, this isn't the flu.
Like, 12 months of this has been bad enough. Like, 10 months in the U.S., like, this has already been a lot.
Right. But the things that I see with it, and it's kind of concerning me, is, we've got to get 70% to get an eradication herd immunity. I don't think with this virus we'll ever get herd immunity. Like, this isn't smallpox.
I think where maybe some of my concern is going to be, is if this is going to be a full-on vaccination or if this is going to be more like your flu shot.
Right.
As in, like, what's the longevity going to end up being? Are we going to end up with another panic, in a few years because, we find out
Sylvia said that it would come back in 2031, and then we would have, and then it would just disappear, which means that they found a cure for it, in my opinion. But this is my viewpoint. I'm taking it. I normally do not take flu shots because you can't over support your immune system, and mine doesn't normally like it, but I did take it this year. If I have to take this one every year, then I'll take this one every year. I don't think that they're microchipping us or turning us into lizards.
No, I'm sorry. That's just anti-vaxxer crap. And then there's the whole, like, give me the list of what's in it. And it's like, okay, one, that's probably going to be, like, trademark information. But two, like, some people are like, oh, it has mercury and this and that. And, it's like every other vaccination is... And that's been an anti-vaxxer argument that, there's all these horrible chemicals. And it's like, again, that's not really been, I understand there have been vaccinations with problems. There have been specific, like very specific, like problem lots of vaccinations. I really don't think that's something someone's trying to do.
Right.
Like that's not, I mean, that's sort of in that realm of, and it's a story we haven't gotten to, but it's sort of in the realm of like, the medication bottling accident of zolpidem and Synefadil.
Right.
So basically, side note, let's detour to that real quick, just so that makes sense as a comparison.
Well, give your earphone warning.
Oh yeah, headphone warnings. We will be covering a few stories tonight that are probably not kid sensitive. Not that we ever are, but
Yeah.
We recommend it. Not in like sexy fun time, but adult time.
Right.
So no, on the so basically zolpidem is a fun little medication. It has some traditional uses in intent as an antidepressant. It's also very common in elderly population as a sleep aid. And then there are other uses of it.
Right. Translation is the common term for it. It's used to sedate. It's a nerve sedation.
Yeah. So lots of nerve patients also get it to help, sort of also with sleep, but for a different reason, as in it's all to like calm the nerves down. Right. Don't they also use it for like restless leg?
Restless leg, nervous tens.
This is not a PG or PG-13 show. Monday is right. This is a mature audiences only. Not
explicit.
Hey, but we're smoking. That gets us the TVMA.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is this plant gets this contract to basically process and bottle these medications. And you would think this would be like either two separate sides of the building, two very different things. No. Turns out in Synefadil, if you're not familiar with that, the little blue pill from the Viagra. So there was a little accident. They were bottling generics, and so some of the Viagra ended up in the zolpidem, and some of the zolpidem ended up in the Viagra. My comment on that is either which way, someone's getting a hard night. Like, no matter how you slice that.
Well,
Like, I
that's quite dangerous.
Well, it is. Like that. All kidding aside, this is a bad thing. But it is still kind of funny.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm thinking of these poor people. First, let's take the common uses for antidepressants, which is depression.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take the common uses for Viagra, which is ED, and mix them. The problem is the side effects. You got to remember, Viagra was developed for high blood pressure and heart disease.
Well, but the upside is it's a really crappy blood pressure medication. But side note, weird thing happened while doing clinical trials. Right. Like, literally, Viagra was an accident.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but again, the hopeful part would be that this would not necessarily go as bad.
Right.
But yeah, it's always scary when we have medication mix-ups. I would say, like, welcome to 2020.
Yeah.
You thought you needed a sedative, you got Viagra.
Well, what gets me, and this is just, nurse brain kicking in here. Giving someone trazodone that's bipolar, yes, that's one of the other uses.
Mm-hmm.
That now has a less controlled feature because
now their medication's getting erratic.
Yeah.
But now I'll pause there for a second and go, I don't think that's one of the more common bipolar meds, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
sorry. I
didn't know that behavior.
Well, but I thought that was like an older use of it. Like, that's where, as in, like, it's probably already been replaced for a lot of patients.
Right. But some of your other patients that nothing works, they'll use that with lisinopril, mix it together, and you have your uppers and your downers. So you take an upper in the morning and a downer at night.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, someone's going up. Sorry.
My other thought was, oh my God, we have 90-year-olds who maybe have Alzheimer's. They're already on blood pressure medicine to lower their blood pressure. Now they've got a blood pressure. Now they're supposed to be taking their trazodone to go to sleep so their caregiver can get a break or their wife can get a break. And they're not getting a break.
Well, and that's not even to mention all the nursing home patients.
Yes.
In the middle of COVID, because it is very popular in elder care.
Yes.
Because it's one of the better tolerated meds. Because sometimes you have a lot of problems with elder care, and especially dementia care, very specifically dementia care, in getting the appropriate response to medications.
Right.
Like, a lot of the, like, psych meds do not work the way they're supposed to in dementia patients. They'll go all cattywampus on you.
Right.
But zolpidem is one that is typically trusted for that situation.
Right.
I've seen it, like, there's tons of people, like, you get north of 65 that, and, like, you have problems sleeping, or you have a caregiver going, yeah, they have problems sleeping. You're most likely going to get handed that one. Like, they'll write that one like Pez. It's a low-dose medication. It doesn't horribly affect blood pressure. It doesn't interact with a lot of things. It's a good, safe med, and typically people either respond to the sedation or they don't.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Right. Now, here's the other teaming of that. Viagra has a definite effect on the heart itself.
Mhm.
It doesn't decrease blood pressure. So if someone was on a sedation medicine and
Mhm.
they took the Viagra, they may have had complications. So it'll be interesting to see how many people sue this one.
Well, and then you have a lot of really angry, frustrated guys
Right.
who thought they were going to have a good time, and all they got was a good night's sleep.
Yeah, and a lot of frustrated and angry women, because Viagra is one of those ones you have to plan for.
Well, maybe not so much.
Well, yeah.
Like that's been the big argument, though, is we gave a bunch of 80-year-olds Viagra, and suddenly their wives were like, oh, crap.
Well, but no, think about this. You have a 45, 55-year-old man. They've planned out their evening. We have dinner. I take my pill. We go to the movie. We cuddle up on the couch, watch a movie, and then we'll have sexy fun time.
Mm-hmm.
And he falls asleep. And she can't wake him up.
Well, now Zolpidem's usually not that hard of a sedation med. Like it makes going to sleep easier. It'll typically make you drowsy, but it's not like gonna knock you out. It's not like no one should watch this and get the idea it's like a date rape drug. You're not gonna. You would have to use a lot of Zolpidem to roofie someone.
Right.
And that's usually why it's also chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's especially safer than say Ambien.
Right.
Ambien and trying to wake someone up or getting them awake, as in they'll be physically functional but not actually aware of their surroundings and what's going on or forming new memory, plus typically really heavy disinhibition. Like Ambien's a bit scary, and it's also one of those meds you really don't want to use so much in the elder population.
Right.
Like, it really affects them.
Right. But my point of it, and my point with it,
know
your pills, know what your pills look like. If they don't look right, immediately call your pharmacist. Go, did you get a new supplier? Because the pills, although white, they're very different looking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure about that because this was a generics manufacturer. So, right. And sometimes that happens with generics is you end up with companies that create just like it. They all end up looking virtually the same. They just are stamped different.
Right.
So looks like this, it all kind of looks like an aspirin and then it just is stamped different.
Right.
And that can be really confusing. I've always loved pharmacies that give you a heads up to that.
Right.
And a very clear one that's like, hey, your med changed. Before you freak out, we didn't screw up. We're with a different supplier for this.
Right.
I really appreciated my grandmother's pharmacy for that. They give you a big yellow warning on everything.
Right.
Like you couldn't open the bag without seeing the warning.
Right.
Because there were sometimes I would have freaked. Because the pills would change drastically. Like it wasn't like, oh, okay, that's a little less peach than normal, or that's a little less yellow than normal. This is like, it's a whole different color, whole different shape, whole different thing.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, what's this? But thankfully with the warning, and then they wrote in exactly what the differences were. Is your previous script looked like this, your new script looks like this.
Right.
Don't panic. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, what is this? Why is this? How is this? Yeah, you got to be watchful of it. You got to kind of sit back and go,
and
that's
also the problem in the population that these meds are going to is my grandmother, quite frankly, would have taken anything she was handed.
Right.
And that was kind of earlier on when the dementia was questionable. Like, is she just getting older and forgetful, or is this more.
Right. And managing multiple medications, if you get past 2, it's kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and she was up to 13 a day, like at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a very convoluted process. Like it took a lot of effort to keep track of her meds. When I got there, I want to say she had at least 8 at that point already.
Right.
And she had them throughout the house.
Right.
Like a couple set by the sink for breakfast, and a couple more set in the bathroom, and a couple more were, and I was just like, oh my God, this is confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the things people end up having to do to try to like trick themselves to make sure they take their meds. It's a lot.
Well, is it a lot? If you're trying to remember, we've gone to pill cases just because it's easier. For me.
Right. I'm still more of a pill bottle guy. I don't know, like I keep them like on my desk in front of me, and my biggest problem is remembering to like the one I have to take before bed.
Right.
Which isn't a sleeping pill. It's just that's the time of day I end up taking it. But it does kind of end up being an issue. That it's like, oh crap, I just got into bed. Like,
right. There's a whole changeover of where things are, how things are. For me, I'm taking, I don't even know, I think it's 5 or 6, but it's like, take this one twice a day, take this one once a day, and then it's like, and exactly like Brenda says, did I take them? Did I not take them? Did I take them an hour ago? Did I take, I cannot wait till they just come up with a patch, and it's formulated for your medications, and you just put it on, and it goes throughout the day, and you take it off and put the new one on the next day.
Absolutely. And I would think, and probably, I don't think that's going to be too much further down the road, because they're already doing that with gastric bypass patients for their supplements. You can get all kinds of blends to address specific issues, because that's a specific problem with people who've had gastric bypass.
Right.
Is that like trying to take the great big handful of pills and big old swallow of water to push them all down, and it doesn't work so well.
No.
That's kind of in that great big list of please don't do that. Well, and Shannon points out, luckily, if she doesn't take hers, her body lets her know.
And it's easy to tell if Aeson hasn't had his, because he will shut down. You will start seeing the IQ power just shutting down.
Unfortunately true.
Yeah. And then after Aeson takes his, it's like, your pills have kicked in, haven't they? Yep. Hi, Dottie.
Hello, Dottie. And yes, hello, Minka and Brenda and Kathy as well, and Shannon. Sorry if we didn't get there. We kind of jumped right in.
And it's just because we've been wanting to talk about a lot of things. And a lot of these things are kind of like, Now, another one that we've been seeing a lot, and, one of our lovely baristas sent me a message on it. Because, the 21st, we're going to have a conjunction forming the Christmas star.
Aww, we have a Christmas star.
Yes, this is the first time in 800 years that the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction has hit. So there are some things I want to cover with this, and make it really clear these are not what's occurring. You will notice the theme once I start listing them off. There we are. So, on December 21st, Jupiter and Saturn are conjunct. This occurs very rarely, about every 800 years. Things that are not happening. We are not moving into the age of Aquarius. We have been in the age of Aquarius for a very long time now. I don't know when we're going to get to the age of Pisces, but I'm looking forward to it, probably in about 20 years. Your DNA does not get an upgrade.
What? We're not going to have a whole new chromosome or 20 pop on?
No, December 21st, and I think it's at like 12:32. Don't quote me there. You're not going to sprout a tail or horns or wings. You're not going to do backflips.
Oh, darn it.
There will not be a third eye massive awakening. Your third eye is already awake. You just got to learn to use it.
Okay. Any other crazy ones?
Oh, yeah. Aliens are not racing to return to Earth.
I'm pretty sure aliens lock their doors when they get near Earth. I think we're a bad neighborhood in our galaxy. Or we're just a bad galaxy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
They lock their doors.
Right.
Like, no one's trying to probe us. They're like, no.
Well, we have the Greys, and that's a whole other look at things that we'll talk about, because that actually came out. And I think I mentioned it on PCS, but I don't know if I did or not. You will not gain superpowers. The world is not ending and restarting. The polar shift is not going to be occurring.
Okay, but can we just back up and say that I think a world reboot would not be a bad thing? Like, have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in?
I think the world needs a reboot, but I think we need to reboot society.
No, Dottie, they don't even stop to pee. Like, we're not even good enough to be restrooms on the intergalactic. No.
Right.
No.
No Messiah is returning.
Oh, come on. 2020 is not the year.
Not the year. Sorry, yes, they used this occurrence to set a date on the calendar. It is most likely comparative to history's correct version, not his birthday, till at least April. I think that it's really crazy that the Christian religion celebrates his birthday and his crucifixion backwards. To fit in with what was current cultural time celebrations.
But okay, Dottie brings up a point. Do we have the Christmas star to thank for Trump leaving? Because that's magical.
We ain't there yet. We've got to get all the way through to January 20th. And
I'm just saying, even I at this point am feeling very much like a star shimmering in. Yeah. I'm there. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, this is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not a fast approaching train.
Right.
Like, woo.
Yeah, but this is a rare event. You should document it, because it will probably be the only time you see this in at least the next 4 lifetimes, if we go on the Gnostic view of reincarnation.
Well, Kathy, I think you're right that the Secret Service will have to escort Trump out, and I think it'll be very confusing because I don't know if he knows how to deal with any other type of escort.
Here's the facts.
Like, he might try to marry the Secret Service agents. I'm sorry, that was horrible. I'll just have some coffee.
Right. But here's the facts. That's actually a true statement. And it's happened with every president since Lincoln. The Secret Service always escorts presidents and former presidents from one location to another. However, I do feel that he's going to create drama all the way up and probably after. And then I think we're going to see a divorce.
Oh yeah, I would say that like election, like the morning after the election, there was a call to a divorce attorney. Like, let's just go ahead and get that ready now.
Well, no, she's been getting that ready. I think she's been getting that ready for about 12 years after she completed her contractual agreement to produce a child.
There is that.
Mm-hmm.
There's that. But no, I mean, I don't know. I just think it'll be hilarious. But yeah, sorry, that's just a lot of political humor. But I think we all need it right now.
We do. It's a different season. The Supreme Court did hear our, say, nope, we don't make laws, and nope, you're in the wrong, which is good. They also kind of gave open, he's now wanting to introduce a special counsel to investigate Biden's son. Like, can we get any lower here?
Well, I don't think anyone's going to have a problem with the investigation. Like, that's just been, like, at this point, I don't think there's any way around that. Like, they brought that up all the way through election. So yeah, I don't think there's any way of getting around like trying to form that investigation. I just think it's going to be hilarious.
Well, I think it's interesting that Barr said, I am out of here. I enjoy my law license.
Yeah, really? Like, a lot of attorneys around him seem to be saying that.
And running away.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, these are like core attorneys that he has bought and paid for their houses. He has bought and paid for their cars. Now, I do think that there's going to be an investigation about some stuff he's done during this 4 years. That's going to be very highly interesting.
Well, and then I'd say in the future, like probably not immediate, but I'd say in the future, we're going to see some laws changing around like elected officials, especially. Like, I think we're going to like quit assuming there's going to be a cute little gentleman's agreement here and start kind of like forcing it.
Right.
Like this is traditional, this is what people do, or this is what presidents do, or, potential presidents, like release your taxes and, surrender your businesses, those kinds of things. I think we're going to end up having to codify that and be like, it's no longer just traditional and a smart move. It's going to have to be, no, this is legitimately what you have to do.
All right. Now, what I'm watching is January 6th. Here's what we're set up for this next battle. January 6th is when the new Congress sets. Okay. So the freshman congressmen and congresswomen setting have to accept the Electoral College's vote. There's kind of a rallying through a few people to challenge it and make them actually vote on it. Here's the thing, though. Mitch McConnell, our lovely Kentucky snapping turtle, is trying to make sure that his whole group does not call for a vote to make it just agree and go forward. Because if they do call for a vote, guaranteed in 2 years, not 4, 2 years, when they are faced with re-election, they are going to have a challenge. But also the other part of this is if Georgia's runoff election doesn't switch the House and the new president of the Senate, i.e. our vice president, Madam Harris, then can take all his powers away, because traditionally the majority leader gets the lead, what gets to the Senate floor, what doesn't. By the Constitution, which we've been seeing, that pulled a lot here the past 4 years as well. The Constitution says so, I can do. She gets to demand and say what goes to vote, what doesn't go to vote. She gets to say what the Senate entertains. So where the vice president's role has been more diplomatic and just, banging the gavel, keeping order, she technically can go in there with gangbusters and pull up her old armor of prosecutor and create a lot of problems for him over the next 2 years till he's up for re-election again.
There we go. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun little time. 2021 is definitely shaping up to be like the year of we ain't gonna take it.
Yeah.
Like I think it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be kind of a spectacular show.
Well, I think it's going to be a spectacular show, but I also think it's going to be interesting because I think that we're going to be looking at a new pace in government that we haven't seen probably for 20 years. Because now we have two former congressmen in the executive branch. So they know the system. They know the ins and outs. They know the rules. They know how to play this, party game, as I call it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think if nothing else, it's just going to be a fun change from the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. Like, can we just go back to the worst thing that this next 4 years holds is like a tan suit gate?
No, I think the worst thing this one's going to hold is a lot of hard conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Biden's trying to be presidential, we know when he gets argumentative or upset, that Delaware boy comes out and his lips open and words fly out.
Well, after the last 4 years, are we even going to be able to get offended?
I mean, heck, somebody gets offended by our show.
Well, this is true. But yeah, so anyway, moving on from politics, because we always get dinged, like we get a little political.
Yeah, we get political because, hello, GBLT.
And it's kind of hard not to be political in our world right now. We have a lot of...
We've got to stay political. We've got to stay on it because our rights aren't colonized. The right to marry, the right to equality, the right to this, the right to that. If anything is proven, our rights are not colonized. You have to be active. You have to be voting. You have to be calling and emailing and sanitizing these because they've got to be concreted.
Well, there is that. Not to mention just the absolute sadness of the things that have happened in the last 4 years. That our pandemic response team was dismissed. Our HIV advisory committee to the president was basically quit.
No, they were told to quit. Basically.
Okay. Well, effectively, like they quit having meetings and then they all resigned in protest was my understanding.
Right.
So yeah, it's all been like, these are massive, like, national issues. Mm-hmm. As well as our global concerns. Over the last few years, the Paris Climate Accord, the World Health Organization, like we've gone a weird direction just in 4 years.
Right.
Will I say that Team America and that whole, like, we're just going to swoop in everywhere? That was too far, but so is this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to be swooping in everywhere, like, fix the world's problems all over the place, just, roughshod over everyone, but at the same time.
Well, and that's the hard thing Americans have to get a clue with, especially in our area. We are a global market.
Yeah.
And I think that's been shown with COVID. We are a global market. We need to be participating in the global market. And paying attention to it.
And employment has changed drastically because of that. I know that's not helping everyone right now because that was a lot of unemployment numbers to absorb into the work at home like concept. But in terms of like alternatives for businesses that have shut down, I'm sure it has absorbed a large number of people with different, work at home or work independently options.
Right.
And a lot of those are from around the globe.
Right.
So yeah, I take it Puppy needs to go out.
Yeah. That's why you guys get to see the Christmas decorations.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh, he has the worst timing anymore.
Well, I think it has to do with the Mack truck delivery. I really do. I think there's a Mack truck that drives by the house every night, and he has to go see it because this is the same time every night.
Yeah, he is obsessed with trucks. He likes his trucks.
He does.
Yes.
It's crazy some of the things he gets obsessive about.
This is going to sound bad, but just take it for what it is. I think if we ever had to rehome him, my first candidate would be a truck driver.
Yes.
Like, just put him in the passenger seat. This will be the happiest dog ever.
He's the easiest dog to transport too.
Oh yeah, he's happy to go. Like, he just wants to move. He just likes traffic. He likes vehicles. He likes seeing vehicles. He is all about it.
And he has his seat. He will get pissy if his seat isn't ready.
Nope. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He does not like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I am assuming there is a specific truck going by every night that is making him happy.
Yeah. Because especially when it snows, so he can see them real well. He'll just go out there and sit.
Well, either that, or maybe our neighbors have dinner at 10, and then they're like, because we've noticed the neighbors are getting friendly with the dog.
They're getting very friendly with the dog.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to find out he's going out for bacon.
Possibly. I mean, the other day they almost had him out of the yard, and I'm like, hey, put him down.
You're really. And he's no small, he is not a small puppy.
No.
He is not small. That's a lot of lifting to do.
Yeah, and when he's out of the house, everybody knows Flad technically could clear the fence if he wanted to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the fence is a suggestion.
The fence
takes well.
Security.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, the fence, yeah, basically it's his security. But no, I mean, the fence is a suggestion. He works well with perimeters.
Right.
He doesn't need a true barrier. It doesn't even have to be a good fence. It just has to be a barrier, and he's like, okay, got it. That's my perimeter. Right. That's it. He is not all about going in and out over fences and getting around and digging under, and yeah, he's not there.
Yeah.
He's he is meant for farm life.
Right.
By, so to speak, design and nature. But yeah, no, he doesn't even try. But now we've also made the comment before, if we were in the front yard and he's in the back, someone approaches us the wrong way, he's going over that fence, and there's no stopping it.
Right.
The only thing we could do is go with a higher fence, and then he's still just going to hurt himself.
Right.
So,
yeah,
there is that. And Brenda points out hers is in the same boat. Could jump fence, doesn't.
Yeah, they just need to know that they don't go past this point.
Yeah, this is my perimeter. This is it. This is my space.
So we've seen some other changes going on in the world, and we want to send our prayers to the president of France, who's now COVID positive. This is now our third global leader that has become COVID positive.
Well, and that also has sent a lot of elected officials into quarantine.
Yeah.
Because there was a meeting in which he was at, and that has raised some alarm that there's possibility a lot of other elected officials may end up sick.
Right.
So yeah, it's not quite as unfortunate, and I'm trying to think of other words, as like the school board meeting in which everyone got together to discuss COVID, and like 25 people all got COVID.
Right.
You know, in terms of like, okay, guys, y'all gotta get a little better with Zoom. Like, you really just gotta get on the bandwagon.
Well, you got to get into Zoom. I mean, I'm just now getting into Zoom, and it's a different model. You know, it's a different model and everything. But something that more interesting is over 1,000 cars got stuck on the interstate.
Well, now hold on. Before you move on to the 1,000 cars stuck on the interstate, now there's been a thing going around Facebook, and I thought you would have better identified with Zoom after seeing that.
Okay.
Zoom meetings, they're like a modern seance. If you're there, can you make a sound? We can't see you. You know, I would have thought just approach Zoom as if it's a seance. Like, that's all you got to do. Just
I could see that, but still, you know, it's been different. Getting used to Zoom classes and Zoom meetings, and it's like, and now I'm doing Zoom readings, which I'm like, yeah, we're keeping this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll pay my little $16 a month to do what I need to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but no, there's been a massive snowstorm to hit Japan, trapping over 1,000 cars overnight on the interstate. And I'm looking at the pictures here; they aren't joking.
Oh, wow.
Like, it wasn't that the road was so cold; it's that the cars are buried.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
just freak storm at a like rush hour?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's for. Well, and our North Carolina resident isn't with us tonight because, you know, she had a baby.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we are super excited. The squatter has been evicted. The squatter has been evicted.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that. But I would just wonder if she would remember, like, it's been a few years. North Carolina had a snowstorm start like that. Because North Carolina, just for anyone who doesn't live there, never been there, winter in North Carolina is more so about ice.
Mm-hmm.
And that typically starts as rain, and then it gathers, and you can still salt the roads, and it's okay. You can get everyone home. North Carolina, several years back, I think it was 2004, had a really freak like weather event. It started out, it looked like it was going to be a normal North Carolina winter.
Mm-hmm.
And out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
it instantly changed to snow. And the minute that businesses started realizing what was happening, they tried to send everyone home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, North Carolina does try. But it didn't work out the way anyone intended. It meant that I-40 became a parking lot.
Uh-huh.
People were stuck for hours.
Right.
Like, no one could get home. It was a total nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Just snow and ice. And again, the thing with North Carolina, because I know we have some Midwesterners and some more northern people, the thing you have to remember with North Carolina is they don't get enough snow to really justify owning snow plows. And when you have heavy traffic all hitting the interstate at once, what can happen, and what did happen, is the traffic got ahead of the plows.
Right.
And then accidents started happening. The log jam of vehicles occurred. And suddenly you can't get a plow through that.
Right.
You can't get anything through that.
Right.
So there's no fixing it. Like, how do you fix this? You can't fix this.
Right. What happened here, and it was a real shocker to me, is when we walked out, I don't know what day we had to go pick up the groceries. It's the day I had you go do errands with me. And I walked out and the car was covered in ice, and I'm like, oh, am I back in Columbus? Because this is what we got one Christmas Eve was we walked out in the whole car, and at this time Aeson owned his Spider, Eclipse, and it was just a solid block, a clear coat on it. And I thought, oh, the guy's really done a great job on the waxing. I mean, even the cover is waxed. No, it was really nice. So was our Kia, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm back in Columbus.
Yeah, really. Well, yeah, you kind of panicked about the ice, and I'm like, no. Like, I don't care as long as I can see out the windows.
I'm just not dealing with this winter driving yet. I'm even happy with.
Yeah, you're not a big winter driver.
I used to be, but not anymore. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, nah.
Basically, I made extra money in college by being a winter driver. Like, because North Carolina had a couple of like North Carolina about once a year gets a snowstorm. And it's not even really like West Virginia, like Virginia and on up, like draw a line, across Virginia, across the United States. Anyone north of that is like, this is not a snowstorm.
Right.
Okay. Like, this is a slushy, like, factory problem. Mm-hmm. Like someone left their slushy machine on, and it broke. Like, this is like the level of snow we're talking about. But people would freak out. Like, you go a little south, and that one snow day a year, the snow day, shuts an entire state down. And people are scared to death to drive in it. Like, this little tiny, like, slushy line between the lanes freaks them out. Like, nope, I can't drive in that. You're all going to die. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. You need to go to the store. I'll take you to the store, whatever. I'll handle it. Like, I can do this. So I would have people that would actually offer me money, like, just to drive their car to a store. And I'm like, okay, like, or buy me lunch or whatever. I was like, this is cool. Like, I appreciate. Oh yeah. Like, yeah. Well, in North Carolina, like, storms are weird anyway. Like, looking at Brenda's comments, she said, my friends that live in North Carolina have a ball when it snows, laughing at people and driving everyone places. It's great. Now I will say the one that got me, my first year of college, we had a flurry of snow. Like, didn't really stick, but just like flurries. I looked outside my window, went, oh, we had a light dusting of snow. I guess I have class today. As in, it wasn't even a thought that we wouldn't. Right. Got up, got ready, headed over, and it was get all the way across campus, and there's this weird little sidewalk dip.
Right.
And it didn't look slick. It just looked wet. It always stayed wet. The way the building was made, there was a lot of overhangs over the sidewalk.
Right.
And, of course, I hit black ice on foot, and I slid straight down that stupid sidewalk and went feet first into a glass door, and all I could keep thinking was, please don't break.
Right.
Because it was one of those, I couldn't stop myself. There was nothing I could do.
Right.
And all I could, and so I slammed feet first into the door. It didn't break, but this, dear sweet woman, in facilities management sees me do this, and she comes out of the building, out of this door. Are you okay? Are you all right? What are you doing here? And I went, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm fine. What do you mean? What am I doing here? And she's like, they canceled all classes for today because it's so bad out. And I went, it's not that bad. And do you know that was 8 a.m. By noon, there were people on this snow day. noon, there are people in shorts and t-shirts, flip-flops, playing frisbee, because not only is the snow melted, what little dusting we got, it is now 70 degrees. We had snow overnight, a dusting, and ice. And by noon, people are playing frisbee in shorts and a t-shirt going, I'm a little hot.
But that's North Carolina for you.
It is. It's crazy.
I'm out. Keep going south. Take me down to, like, well, Georgia if it improves.
Mm-hmm.
I'll enjoy my winters there.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, now I do have to ask Brenda, do your friends also enjoy the other northerner who moved south pastime, known as telling people how to defrost their windshields with boiling water?
Tell the story.
Huh?
Tell the story.
Oh, I worked for a place. I did. I worked for a place. That was one of our favorite things. We would have people that would start working there, and every once in a while we'd get a southerner, and it's their first winter in, North Carolina. The first time they've ever had to own an ice scraper, the first time. And a bunch of my coworkers were telling her that, yeah, you just boil a pot of water and throw it on your windshield. And this girl did it. And her poor husband comes outside going, are you nuts? Because, of course, she does this, and the first couple of times it's fine. Yeah, the last one was the last one because she hit the windshield with a pot of boiling water, and with the boiling water, and it exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's not a thing we do. That will not clear.
Well,
it'll clear your windshield. Let me tell you, it'll clear it. It'll be crystal clear. You won't miss a thing, even the bugs in the wind. It really quits being a shield,
Mm-hmm.
She was just about that bad. Like she was a fun one. She was a fun one. She had been with her husband for like 3 years, and they would not use the toilet when the other one was at home. If one of them had, and I'm talking number 2, they would go to the nearest gas station. Like, it was just so, like, they were so messed up, it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think this marriage is going to work. I just really don't. But,
Yeah, that's one of the ones that, have, and Brenda brings it up, that needs to make sure to be checking their blinker fluids, because that can run out.
Yeah, well, it happens.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to our fun article. That our 2 fun topics, because something happened today before we went to air that we got to talk about with the
same light. Okay, well,
like
we got an okay.
Yeah.
All right, so which one are we starting with first?
Start with the one that we got into, and I'm going to clarify where everybody, when I give my opinions, hear me out.
True. So Pornhub, for those of you who have been watching News of the Weird, and please forgive us for all puns, I just can't help myself. So Pornhub has jerked down a lot of content in terms of they have taken it down. They are now only hosting content from models and partner content providers.
Mm-hmm.
So basically studios or individual models that have actually gone through the full verification, and companies that currently produce porn. Like, you're an actual studio, you have a bigger name. which is all effectively paid content. They're leaving that up. I believe they're going with the assumption there's a certificate of compliance, or at least they can manage that. So that means a lot of unverified and amateur content has been removed, creating a bit of a rumbling in the porn industry and the porn community. Especially around those with amateur accounts, as well as a lot of concerns about what this means for pornography in general, and what, as a leading porn based company, Pornhub, what this is going to actually functionally mean for the rest of the industry. As to what this is going to turn into and what this is going to look like. Is there going to be a domino effect? All this relates back to I believe, New York Times article. Don't quote me on that. I know it was the Times, not sure which one offhand. I believe it was New York Times. Article that effectively pointed out the ease of availability of finding content that at least describes itself as containing underage persons. Oh, that's a whole lot of lead in to get where we're at. So what's effectively happened, and you can follow the bouncy ball, is a lot of backlash has hit Pornhub for this situation, leading Pornhub to make the decisions that it has. Industry-wise, it is Pornhub is generally considered a leader. They do a lot in terms of kind of leading the pack. They also are a company that has done a lot of things. One could say for attention. One could also say not necessarily bad things. Like, they're a decent company. They're trying to be decent.
Right.
You can be smutty but nice. Basically being their theory. Hooker with a heart of gold if you want. Is a lot of how they've taken it. Hey, we've got a baby mama. So hi, Ashley. Oh, baby guest. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I got distracted by babies.
Yes.
So yes, an invisible assistant bringing coffee. So yeah.
Well, the other problem was they were having revenge porn posted there. CP possibly, posted there. And you were telling me of a case of CP. Well, it's not CP. Explain the case that you were telling me about. That I was like, why don't they just use copyright laws?
Well, no, it is technically child porn. Right. Yeah, basically, this article went really in depth, specifically with one now woman's experience. She was a teenager at the time. Everything went wrong. She was 14, interested in an older boy. They started talking. He started asking for pictures. One thing led to another. And then he in turn shared those. And in the process, that got all around the school, in addition to getting posted online. One of the sites they were posted to was Pornhub. This also turned into an exploding problem. Is that she was too ashamed and embarrassed to let her family know what's going on. She also has other people exploiting that, demanding more and more video and photos, etc., which were then in turn posted online. So in this, eventually her mother finds out. She contacts and tries to get the content removed, and it's sort of a whack-a-mole. The content, one form of the content comes down, someone else re-uploads. Content comes down, someone else re-uploads. And it snowballs. Eventually they move to a different school district, get away from the bullying and harassment and everything that she's been through. Somehow or another, that became public knowledge again. And all of the content resurfaced again.
Mm-hmm.
She's ended up, since she's, I believe, 23 now, if I remember correctly. She's gone through a lot, and there's no denying that. Like, she's gone through a lot. She's gone through a lot of harassment, a lot of bullying, a lot of issues with self-confidence, and issues with self-harm, as well as I believe multiple is a good description for the number of attempts at suicide. Like, lots of issues. In addition to developing a substance abuse problem.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this started with a simple sext, sending a sexual text message.
Right.
Where all this started at, it really blew up. It's almost the poster child for explaining this is why you don't do this. You know, I hate to call her a good example of what not to do, but ultimately where she's ended up. Unfortunately, and I say that. Okay.
Now, hear me out, everyone, when I go to my few problems. One, we have to start teaching teenagers, even preteens, about their body and finding that some people find it attractive. And this is what you do as an adult. This is what you do not do as a child, because she is now a producer of child porn. The boyfriend is now a distributor of child porn.
As is everyone who re-uploaded.
Yes, as is everybody that re-uploaded. I personally think that she should have took this a different way, and the mother should have took it as a different way too. And here is why. When you take a photo, you become the copyright holder of that picture. Anywhere, anything, you own the copyright to it. These sites and other sites like them are supported by AdSense or advertisement. So if you view the picture and it's got an ad right here, they're getting money for it to display that ad. Whether you click it, don't click it, whatever, they're being paid. They shouldn't be they should be issuing DNCs, but they also should be issuing AdSense requests. Give me money for the advertisement you got off of it. I think you see a drastic different stop to this behavior of the re-uploading, because that could be $1 million in a day or so for a very popular site. Because yes, Pornhub's took it down, it'll pop up somewhere else. It's kind of like that frog that pops up.
Well, I went with whack-a-mole.
No, there's a frog image. This was a big thing. The copyright holders now withheld rights. You can no longer post the meme.
So the Peppy thing.
The Peppy thing.
Yeah.
Why they are not doing this, I do not know, because that would stop a lot of this for her and also anybody else out there.
Well, but I think it gets into a bigger, uglier problem.
Right.
Is that you're trying to claim copyright on material that's illegal in the first place.
Right.
Like, I think the closest you could get on that would be try and claim copyright on the Anarchist Cookbook. Which is a great big, like, that's not just a banned book, that is an illegal to possess book, if I remember correctly.
Correct. But the thing with it is, there's still a copyright to it.
Okay. Well, but ultimately, though, you're still, one is going to effectively put you in the category of having to knowingly recognize you produced child pornography. I'm sure her mother, I don't think any parent wants to jump in on that one. Nor do you really want your teen jumping into that one.
Again, it's going to happen. No mother wants their child to be pregnant. No mother wants their child to feel ashamed of their body, but they keep teaching it over and over and over.
Well, but there is some degree of truth to that it does ultimately create issues there.
Right.
Like, don't be ashamed of your body, enjoy, consent, yada, yada. Oh, except.
Right.
No, you can't do that. That's illegal. That's bad. That's shameful. That's harmful. And it does get a little.
Yeah.
And I can understand the confusion. And then you're also dealing with teens. And that was one of the big problems here. Is teens are going to teens.
Yeah.
Like, we've been having this conversation for probably 20 years now. In terms of sexting and webcams, etc. And I'm sure for many decades before that with, traditional film camera. What the differential is between film and digital. Film was more controllable. You had an original negative, you have only so many copies.
Right.
Digital, however, once there is a file, once it leaves your possession, there's no stopping it.
Right.
It's viral.
Right.
Or its movement can be.
Right. But here's the but. We have laws. That's a problem. That isn't fixing a problem. Child porn laws are not fixing child porn. It's like child labor laws didn't fix child labor. They just made it uncontrollable.
Well, and I understand your argument, and this is why you were prefacing with, please listen carefully to the argument being made.
Right.
Is in terms of the laws that we have regarding child pornography were meant to address 45-year-old dudes who abduct a child, make child pornography using them, distribute that online to pedophiles who, then become encouraged to do the same thing. And that was the whole snowball effect that one was anticipating.
Right.
Or child prostitution rings and etc.
Right.
I get the argument. I also know that it's one of those topics that becomes very hard to step back and go, so, okay, what would it look like if we tried to address the situation of the victim of child pornography is also the creator of it?
Right.
Which is the situation. This is what it is. You yourself took a selfie, and now that selfie is out of your control and also qualifies as child pornography.
Right. But here's a bigger problem.
Okay.
And this is one that people do not think about. How many people, how many mothers have pictures of their children in the bathtub?
Well, and it's a fair point. And it's also an argument that's been made on social media as well, is that sharing images of your kids, to some degree, how much of that is, effectively, to be rude about it, jerk off material for a pedophile.
Well, it's not only that, but according to some of these broader laws, and we just had this with an OnlyFans account last week. One diet actress shared an OnlyFans pay-per-view of her as a 3-year-old showing a scene. And it's a scene that's like, yeah, it's a 3-year-old acting like a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But she formed it really badly, and there was a real big problem with it. And it brought up a lot of this conversation about what is child porn and what does the law say about child porn.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem comes in is when mom snaps the picture, sends it to grandma, who goes, "Oh, how cute! Let me share this to such and such and such and such, because you all brag about your grandkids." And I gotta brag about grandkids that aren't mine. Not the point. That technically is transmitting child pornography because it's classified as children, maybe, not playing in the dirt, but in the bathtub. And that becomes CP for some pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger problem there is addressing the pedophiles. But what this has done, in my opinion, isn't helping anybody track down the bad guys. It's just pushed them more into the Silk Road.
Well, effectively the dark web.
Right.
Like just go play over there, like create your own scary playground.
Right.
That potentially fewer people are going to get there.
Right.
But and here's like a little personal experience, and I'm not gonna name names ever. I did know someone who just about got themselves in a whole mess of trouble. And it was one of those moments I had to sit back and just be like, what the hell were you thinking? And the situation was this. Her son, I believe 14, 15 at the time, the kid has issues, is the short version to go without getting into all of his diagnoses. One of his issues also involves he has an abundance of confidence. In terms of this is a child who acts like a mini adult already. Like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'll do whatever I want. You can't punish him enough to make him stop his behavior. Part of it is he can't control it. Part of it is he doesn't really care. Like, all attention is good attention.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's in that like puberty phase, thinking more with hormones. Was actually attracted to a friend of hers and sent what would otherwise have been known as a dick pic to her. Of course, the friend is like, what the fuck? What? What are you doing, dude? Like, one, so inappropriate on so many levels to begin with. And then you basically just produced and sent me child pornography. I now have kitty porn on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell?
Right.
So, of course, does what any friend does, calls mother and says, what the, this is what just happened. And so, of course, she takes the phone from him. The mother does. And in a moment I can only call absolute stupidity or stupefaction, whichever way you want to like side it. I really think it was the latter. I think it was just stupefied by the situation. She sends this image to her mother and goes, oh my God, can you believe what he just sent to my friend so-and-so? And they have their own conversation, like, how do I deal with this? What do I do with this? Like, what the? oh my God, I'm going to kill this kid. Like, and that moment of, I'm going to kill this kid. I'm beyond my, like this is beyond parenting now. Like, you've exceeded. Like, congratulations, you've exceeded my ability to parent reasonably, rationally, and decently. So her mom, of course, talks her down, at least enough that we end up talking later, and she's telling me this whole story up to this point. And she was like, hold on, I'll send it to you. And I'm like, no! And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, first of all, like, nowhere in her and her mother's conversation, nowhere in this whole situation has it clicked for her that what she did, like, he produced child pornography and now she's sharing it.
Transmitting
it. But yeah. And she's ready to send it over. Like, can you believe he would send this to someone? And I'm like, no, you don't know. Stop where you are. Do you want to go to prison?
Right.
Like, do you, like, oh my God. Like, how does this not resonate for someone? Like, you're ticked at him for producing child porn and sending it to your friend, and you're sending it.
Right. But it doesn't click in there because she still views it as transmitting a baby, a not so good baby picture.
Basically, my baby screwed up and I don't even know where to begin.
Right. But see,
and that's the problem. It was like total stupefaction. Like, you're trying to Google why Google's down.
Right.
No, it doesn't work. Like, stop it.
And, and here's the other side of that. Y'all heard me bring up child labor laws. Back in the 1920s, or teens and 20s, they started child labor laws. This is a great thing. We don't want our children working in factories. And we don't want them working in the mines and all this other stuff, right? Yeah, that works real good. Except when you have a 12-year-old who is working, has to work under the table, or is working under the table, not getting the benefits of Social Security, not getting the benefits of insurance, not getting any of the benefits, including the money they're earning. They have no right to that money. They can't even protect that money in a bank account from somebody.
Because, like, hey, where did that all come from?
Well, not only that, but if their parentals or guardians aren't of the best mindset with finances, they can just go over and write a check and give it to me. It's my child's account.
Well, and we've also seen this with celebrities in Hollywood. Is that ultimately the payee ends up being the parent, at least functionally. Functionally. Because they maintain that parental fiduciary responsibility regardless of who earned the money in the case of a child actor. And we've seen a lot of child actors go through exactly that.
Right.
That a parent ends up becoming their business manager, and the business manager gets paid, and then that newfound wealth ends up getting spent, mismanaged, and horribly taken care of to the point there's nothing left.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow, Brenda, that is a story. Oh wow. Yeah, okay, so we're going to go ahead and dig into this one. Friend with family account and a horny teenage son. He takes nudes of himself to send his girlfriend. She, of course, sends hers back to him. All photos on this account are backed up to a cloud-type storage. Needless to say, whole family ends up with child porn on their phones. Plus, are now way too familiar with the son and girlfriend. Making sure pics were deleted from everywhere and finding out who all may have seen them was not fun.
No, it isn't fun. It's actually quite complicated. But that's the environment we're living in now. We're teaching our teenagers that not to do that. You know, we should be teaching them not to do this. But that's like teaching them to not have sex. It's going to happen.
Well, but this one goes one step further. Like, the sex isn't the problem. The videotape of it is.
Right.
But we're also asking teens to do that at a time in which we've handed them, you know, camera phones, you know, that in a time period also in which we're documenting everything.
Right.
Like, these kids have had every moment of their life recorded.
And
like,
posted on Instagram.
And shared and sent. And, you know, we're having a technology moment here. I don't want to say it. I'm not calling it a glitch. I'm not calling it a problem. I'm just saying we're having a moment.
Well, we're having a moment.
The embracement of technology and video recording and being on camera, and the fact that most of these kids are going to spend their entire lives under cameras. And we've had a little bit of this conversation before.
Right.
I was in the generation, from junior high all the way through, I've been on camera. They installed them. I remember them being installed in the schools. And we initially probably reacted like the opening scene of 2001: A Space Odyssey and the Monolith. Like, what could we do? What could we say? What could we get away with? We were all paranoid. And then we gained that understanding that these were cameras that technically no one was watching.
Right.
Unless there's an incident.
Right.
So it's like, if you do something wrong in front of the camera, you just better hope no one else does something really wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But, you know, our Puritan society is being gripped with a lot of things. It's like the definition of adult. In a global community, it means a lot of different things. In the US, it's 18. In Europe, in some areas, it's 16. In the Middle East, and some religions see it as 12. But we're expecting teenagers, and we're charging teenagers with adult crimes when they're supposed to be treated as minors.
Well, but we're also getting into the situation of how do you even begin to explain, or what are going to be the long-term ramifications even of like you're making this one thing so bad.
Right.
And not that I'm saying anyone should necessarily be out there encouraging it, but in terms of messaging, I think we're going to have a problem.
Right.
In terms of, you have a child that is like, take a child that was born 18 years ago, 2002. We were all sitting there with our phones that had cameras. They weren't great. They were like little flip phones or candy bar phones or whatever, you know, stupid phone you had, or a Sidekick. This child has literally had a phone pointed at them for every milestone in their life. They have recordings potentially of baby's first bath, baby's first haircut, baby's first day at school, the beginning of every school year. Like, literally every fart they've had in like this 18-year span. And we're also trying to tell them that from, you know, the point of sexual activity starts to you turn 18, don't do any images. Like, no images, no, don't do that. Like, don't record the milestone of losing your virginity. Don't do this. I think you're going to end up having some confusing messages, if nothing else.
Right.
About sex, sexuality, body image, a lot of things going on there that, and especially that you are going to make this a very super shameful thing.
Right. Which
I'm not saying we have answers.
Well, no, these aren't answers.
Topical. This is topical. We're discussing a topic.
Right. This is where you've got, it's like most 12-year-olds know not to get in and start my car.
But some will.
But some will. This will occur. We need to see that with the internet. We need to see that and start using that as, no, you don't touch my gun. No, you don't start my car. No, you don't try to go for a drive down the interstate in my car. But I think we also have to look at, because there's neglectful laws, because like all the YouTube kids, Ryan's now being sued for like $5 billion by this mom over seeing commercials on YouTube on his videos. For those that don't know, Ryan's a 9-year-old kid that started a toy review. Parents and him started a toy review channel, and now has a whole world of this. He's actually very, very rich. That's now come out because of the lawsuit. Is how much this kid actually has put away, but they've done it right. But the problems we run into is biologically, excluding the scientist of brain, you do understand that a child of 18 in the U.S. in another country would possibly be on their second marriage or their third child in a different country. We have a large child labor problem in the U.S. that, they're mowing grass, they're doing newspaper routes, they're acting like adults, but they don't have the ability to behave like adults legally. And for those who go, oh, but they can be, what's that word?
Emancipated.
That doesn't cover, if they can hire a lawyer and then get CPS involved and then do this and then do that, you're looking at a good $10,000 to $20,000 when the child's just trying to feed his household.
Well, and it's still child pornography. It doesn't fix that.
Yeah, this isn't fixing child pornography. However,
well, and I don't say that like child pornography needs to be fixed. Like, I'm trying to be very careful. We are advocating nothing. Just this is a topical discussion. Is like we have a problem.
Yeah,
we have a problem here, and I don't know. Like, I will flat out say, I don't know what the best solution is. I don't know how we fix it. I don't know how we even begin to address it. And it's a topic that everyone shies away from, and I think it's for exactly that reason. It's like, it's a conversational topic. You have to be very careful what you say.
Right.
Because it's like, no, I don't want to go look at 14-year-old kids online.
Right.
At all.
No.
None. Zip, zero, no interest. But how are we going to handle this? Because what we're doing isn't working.
Right.
And what it's often becoming is a very massive minefield. That, like, we have adults in terms of parents and children trying to navigate. And we see the same thing on apps. That we have apps that kids are getting on that are technically adult only.
Right.
Grindr and Growler and, whatever your app of preference is. We've been struggling with this.
Right.
And it creates, and it also creates additional problems.
Right.
Is that we have kids entering a sphere for adults, which then in turn like drives an audience for those in two directions. One, the pedophiles who are interested, and the pedophile hunter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever law enforcement, child, advocacy group wants to go in there and try to, run a sting operation.
Right.
I, uh,
I'm very much for having two internet, for having go to the ISP or the cellular people. If you're an adult and you have, you tell the ISP, I am an adult, I have no children, or I have children in my house, I am taking responsibility. Otherwise, they automatically give you what I call child internet, which blocks the porn, it blocks video upload, it blocks all this other stuff, and puts children in a child zone, like we do with bumper cars. You can drive a bumper car if you're 14. You cannot drive my car.
Well, and I get the sentiment. I really do. I also know that, unfortunately, what it's going to end up doing is making you would literally have to put a wall entirely around the internet. And for instance, some of our viewers that have children might never be able to watch us again. If there's the choice. Either you have to have two internet connections run to the house. One that allows your children to play and exist and go through classes, etc., safely online, and an adult internet that allows you as the adult in the household to interact with others in questionable circumstance, that i.e. you don't want your 10-year-old watching the show, and I understand. I'm there. This is why we give the headphone warnings. I get you would not want to do that, but how does a, so to speak, a child-proofed internet handle that?
Well, reasonably handle HBO, Cinemax, everything else. If you want to watch it, if you want to use that device, you have to enter a code that the device sends to your phone.
Well, and if it's uniquely generated, I understand that, but also we've seen this. We've seen child lock on televisions. The parental controls. We've done that with televisions. Everyone's was 0, 0, 0, 0, or 1, 2, 3, 4.
Not everyone's.
Very few parents actually set it up correctly, or set it up in a way that pin did anything other than be like an annoyance, usually for them.
Well,
like the kid figured it out quickly.
Generated. I think it should be auto-generated. The ISP texts me every time I make a payment. They can text me every time little Johnny wants to get on the internet. Like, it's like, nope, not a child internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then we also see like the ways around it, which is the other problem that families have had with Net Nanny and with the computer in a central location, or trying to do parental controls on cell phones. Is you can only control that situation as long as you have that child in sight.
No.
The next door neighbor kid, that poor unsupervised child, whose parents who just don't get it, or whose parents go a different route with it and go, you know what? Like, we're not doing the baby internet. Like, I expect you to make responsible choices, and for however that works out.
Right. But again, the parent has to engage in that. Okay. The parent has to access and give a code every time they do it. Or they have to sign a waiver that says, no, I'm going to manage my own internet source. Like us, we would sign the waiver and we'd have real internet, unfiltered, totally unfiltered, as it should be, which it isn't. Moving on to this next topic, because we're getting a little long in the tooth.
We are. Wow, that was a quick hour and a half and change.
Yeah. The next topic being Visa and MasterCard has decided to refuse authorizations or charges on Pornhub now.
Yes.
This is a larger problem.
It is, and it's a interesting one. This is part of your merchant services agreement, and it's an ugly, ugly place. Anyone who's never had a merchant account or has never tried to get one, let me tell you, you want to talk about a wild and crazy place, that's a merchant services agreement. There are a lot of things that get banned in terms of merchant services. Visa and MasterCard, you said?
Visa and MasterCard are both refusing to allow charges from Pornhub. So you're an adult with an account in good standings. They are refusing charges. They're refusing the authorizations. They have terminated the merchant agreements with that site. This is dangerous territory, people. Because, Joe has said this before, porn starts echoing life. So now you have credit card companies that you are in good standings with telling you where you can spend your money at.
Yeah. Well, and then here's the other part of this. And just to explain, like, financial processing. The gold standard, the thing you want if you're a business, is a merchant account. There's a lot of businesses that can't have those. The next best choice is what's called basically it's called a payment aggregator. And what they are is they're a third-party merchant services agreement. They basically take in a lot of different companies, and that one company has a merchant account, and they share it. Your next best option is your smaller services. PayPal, Square, Stripe, Cash App, Venmo, whatever. The reason I say that is the fees keep climbing the more people are in the way. And it's a little uglier in the agreements and who has control over what and what they can do with the money.
Right.
So, for instance, when you're with a direct merchant services agreement, you typically pay lower fees, and you get rewarded for more volume.
Right.
So your fees will go down. In addition, you end up having you have a faster fulfillment. You get that money typically faster. And you have more options. Then you go down to third-party aggregators. Basically, they act as a buffer. And what they typically exist for is to take on a bunch of different companies. And effectively, they're hiding your perhaps disreputable transactions in a sea of transactions. Because the biggest way you lose the ability to have a merchant account or you are denied one is to be in an industry that has a high chargeback ratio. So, for instance, you cannot get a merchant services account.
I can get a merchant services account. I cannot, however, use other accounts. I can't use an category account because that's against FTC rulings. And then there are some companies that do not want me as business.
Yeah, that comes into that third option, which is in the PayPal, Venmo, blah, 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 Cash App, Stripe, where conglomeration of companies.
Right.
Because each one of those has their own terms and services and what companies they are comfortable with.
Right.
And I'm sorry I got that wrong. I thought you were in that one of the categories they don't like for merchant accounts.
No, I can have a merchant account if you want to give me $1,000 to set an account somewhere.
Right. But now I previously worked for a company that could not get a merchant services account because we had our industry, debt collections, has a very high chargeback ratio. A lot of people will give you their credit card in debt collections and then call their bank and say, no, I never authorized that. Not to mention, not all debt collectors are reputable. Some crap goes down when you incentivize people to collect as much money as they can, and oh, here's a commission check. Right. Crap goes sideways. We had to go through a third-party company to do our payment processing to effectively hide our chargeback ratio.
Right. But, you know, one, I'm not big enough for a merchant account. I don't process enough receipts in a given month currently. So that leads me to, and FTC says psychic services cannot use aggregate accounts. You have to have either a merchant account or use another service. Okay, so we look at Stripe. They are a Christian-run company that says that they will not supply any services for occult or other things. That includes Cash App and Venmo because Stripe owns them. Square is owned by a subsidiary of a group of people that left Stripe to start their own company. They just continued that. So that leaves PayPal. That's the reason Aeson only accepts PayPal or cash.
The fun of business, you know?
Fun of business.
And now, the interesting part is occult services.
Yeah.
Or the occult, as it's sometimes termed in those agreements, is a wide-ranging category. It includes psychics. It includes, like, pagan organizations.
Psychics, pagan organizations. It includes your bath salt companies that make herbal bath salt, sell herbs. None of those can have anything on Square. There's even some massage and Reiki services that cannot use Square, Stripe, or Cash App, or Venmo at all. Now we have not only the processor being problematic, we have the credit card issuer starting to decide what you can spend your money on.
Well, but now here's the thing: is not technically the credit card issuer.
Yes, it is.
Well, but not exactly. It's a partner network. Your credit card issuer is your credit card issuer. They are part of a Visa network, a MasterCard network, a blah blah blah. It's where the card can be recognized. It's actually going to end up being issued typically by a bank. Visa, Master, and MasterCard specifically don't ordinarily issue cards directly anymore, is my understanding.
Some of them do.
Oh, do they still?
Yeah.
Okay. But now Discover and Amex issue their cards direct.
Correct.
Like and those are the big four in the U.S.
Right.
If you're watching around the world, we know there's some others.
Right.
So yeah, it ends up creating a mess.
Well, it does, because we run into a mess because I have to pay for another account for a social network that apparently doesn't have good credit card services, and they go through an aggregator. And it's always a question on which card is working this month for this or for that.
Well, and then you factor in the number of banks in an effort to prevent fraud are adding in their own layers of fraud prevention, such as our bank. We really struggle to use that card out of state, and heaven help you if the company is out of the country.
Right.
Like if it's not in the continental 48, my card's going to decline. I will guarantee you. It will decline. And that, like,
well, even if it is in the 48, I had to cancel Amazon orders and switch it over to a different card because Amazon runs single charges for every package that I was ordering.
Yeah, well, and to explain that, he had set up subscription services.
Right.
And the card literally had a fit every single month by the number of transactions hitting it.
Right.
And it went, what? No,
Yep.
don't do that. So that, and again, these are fraud prevention techniques, and high volume of transactions with a single retailer are often a sign of fraud, and I understand it. But it can also create massive problems. Like the point we should be thankful for with our bank is, unlike a previous credit union actually that I was with, I had 2 charges. The lovely moment when your card won't read, and so that clerk gets really frustrated and they just keep swiping your card. I was at Wendy's and it managed to double run the transaction. Same amount, a minute apart, same location, it free. My credit union on a Friday turned off my card, canceled my card, issued a new card, and sent it out in the mail on Monday morning. It took 2 weeks to get there. For 2 weeks, I was ready to scream because I was in a situation. This happened to me on a Friday. I went out for lunch at work. I went out for lunch, swiped my card multiple times, as it turned out. Was it swiped? Had lunch, got in a car at 5 p.m. with a friend of mine to go, take a trip. And the first place we stopped to get food, I sit there, I eat a full meal. I have budgeted. I know how much money I have. It was also like a payday Friday. And I go to pay for my dinner, and my card declined. And it wasn't just the, insufficient funds kind of decline. It was your card is not valid. On a financial institution that it only has operators available to take your call from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. I had to wait till 8 a.m. Monday morning to find out what the hell. Yeah, total nightmare.
Total nightmare.
I have great gratitude that, like,
I have zero gratitude.
Well, no, I give them credit for the fact that they will send fraud alerts and stop transactions without necessarily immediately cutting up the card and being like, it's
zero
done.
Gratitude for any company, including our bank, that tells me how to spend my money. Forget that. I work hard enough for my money. I'll spend it how I damn well please.
Well, but I've been in the opposite situation. I had my Adobe account was hacked. Apparently due to a bad password on my part. My apologies. But it ended up in a situation where I had thousands of dollars within mere minutes coming out of my account. And we couldn't get that card stopped fast enough. And trying to get that to get a hold of the bank and be like, I was totally panicked. Like $1,200 came out of my account. And then while I'm on the phone trying to get a hold of them, more transactions are hitting. And granted, for all Adobe services, I had to get into a kerfluffle with Adobe over it. They totally refunded everything, and the bank, went, okay, you're good. It's okay. We stopped it. Just come to the bank, get your new card. Gratitude for that do I have. But yeah, it's a hell of a moment.
But when I'm trying to make a purchase of incense out of country, I have to guess at which card is going to work.
Yeah, that part's annoying.
Yes.
That part's annoying. Yeah, that part's annoying. So Ashley, 82696, do you foresee any hurdles that will stop me from completing the trade program I'm in now, that I'm ready to focus all of my attention to it?
I only see 2 hurdles. One is focusing all attention. Honey, you don't get to focus all attention. You have many humans. you will be able to focus your best attention on. I think that'll be one. You're a little stressed. I want you to take at least a couple days to get that under control. And the other one is finding it interesting, because I think some of it is just boring as hell to you. And that's always hard for you to learn.
There we go.
Yep.
Alrighty.
All right. So we are hitting that 2-hour mark. Yes, this is a long show, guys. Yeah, we had a lot of topics we wanted to talk about, and we're having to be nice about them. So.
Oh, yeah. And you've got one more. And before I launch into the Patreon, why don't you tell people about your exciting news?
What? Do we have a new scheduler?
Yes.
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 Yes, we have a new schedule. We actually have a lot of new things we're going to be able to do with it. And when you're getting ready, since you speak of Patreon, reminder, Patreons, we have our monthly Q&A. Hope you have your great questions ready, and some announcements to make tomorrow at 7 p.m. Yeah.
No,
yeah. 8.
No,
8.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. tomorrow. The invite will go up here in a little bit to come join us. Yes, it is Patreons only, but you guys always get to hear about the cool stuff we do first. And a new cool benefit I'm going to be able to do for my Patreons, a couple of them actually. But yes, we have a new scheduling program.
Yes, Brenda, it is. We went and looked at Acuity, and I started drooling because I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like, she made a wonderful suggestion. So if you guys are looking for scheduling software, and if Dottie's still with us, if you're looking for scheduling software, like, she would hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Like, well, and following up with our guest, Corby, she has currently 3 books out. Aeson's read 2 of them in 2 days, and he's got the 3rd one loaded up on Audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, she was an amazing guest and has lots of information and experience that she has been sharing so beautifully in her writing. It's just absolutely amazing. Like, I don't mean to disparage any other author, but like, she is now the gold standard. Like,
yes, and I want her back. I'm going to invite her back in a couple months. But we'll be talking about some other things.
Oh, and Brenda loves Audible.
I do. I love Audible. I love text-to-speech reading. Alexa has been busy reading to me. Be quiet, Alexa.
I keep waiting for yours to develop a personality, however, and be like, I ain't shutting up. You never shut up.
That'll be funny.
That's how I see yours.
Yes. So, Patreons, please remember and come to the Q&A tomorrow night. And remember, our Q&As in the Patreon is Ask Us Anything.
They are. They absolutely are. And so that brings us to the wonderful, important part of the show. The one where we get to thank our Patreon sponsors. And just so I don't miss anyone, I always wait till it rolls back around, guys. Because I don't want to like insult anyone, even indirectly. So we do want to thank you for your support. Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, and of course the Crystal Lotus Shop, located at 89 Old Main Plaza in St. Albans, West Virginia. If you're in the area, make sure you stop in and check them out. If you'd like to learn more about us or the show or become a Patreon sponsor, you can visit PCSPnetwork.com.
Yes, and get up-to-date information. The magazine went out. You get a monthly magazine.
Late, very late.
Yes, but that's both our faults. We've had a lot of things going on, a lot of changes going on.
Rick's going to start banning for us. Ooh, I love it. But just to show you, like, you get a wallpaper. Oh, my phone does this stuff. Like, this is this month's wallpaper, guys.
Yep.
Like, it's so super cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm proud of this one. I love this one.
Yep. And we're going to be adding some more things that may not be listed on Patreon, but they'll be going up. We'll talk about them tomorrow night. All right, guys. Good night. Have a lovely evening, and we will see you, Patreons, tomorrow. And tarot students, tomorrow, yes, I'm having a virtual tarot class. Sign up is closing at midnight. or we will see you on Tuesday.
Mhm.
Good night, y'all. Bye.
Bye.